Nestled in the heart of Europe, Luxembourg City appears almost impossibly small on any map, yet this tiny capital holds secrets that have shaped the continent for over 1,000 years. Tonight, we'll discover how a simple fortress perched on a dramatic cliff evolved into one of the world's wealthiest capitals, home to global financial institutions and European power. Luxembourg City has weathered sieges, survived conquests, and transformed from a medieval stronghold into a modern metropolis that punches far above its weight. We'll begin with a remarkable fortress that seemed to grow from the very rock itself, and from there, we'll trace the city's extraordinary journey through centuries of conflict and prosperity. So just relax and let your mind drift as we explore the fascinating history of Luxembourg City. When you think of European capitals, perhaps you picture the grand boulevards of Paris or the ancient ruins of Rome. Luxembourg City might not immediately come to mind, but this compact capital possesses a unique charm that sets it apart from its larger neighbours. Perched dramatically on sandstone cliffs, above the Alzette and Petrus rivers, the city feels like something from a fairy tale. Medieval towers rise from rocky precipices, while modern glass buildings gleam in the valleys below. This striking contrast between old and new tells the story of a city that has never stopped evolving. The cobblestone streets of the old town wind past fortress walls that have stood for centuries, yet just minutes away, sleek office buildings house some of Europe's most important financial institutions. It's a place where history and modernity coexist in perfect harmony, where you might stumble upon a 1,000-year-old chapel while walking to a contemporary art gallery. But Luxembourg City's most remarkable feature isn't its architecture or its wealth. It's the sheer improbability of its existence. How did this small settlement, built on what was essentially an isolated rocky outcrop, become the seat of a sovereign nation and one of Europe's most important cities? The answer lies buried in layers of history that stretch back over a millennium. To understand Luxembourg City, we must first understand its geography. The city sits at the confluence of two rivers, the Alzette and the Petrus, which have carved deep valleys through the surrounding plateau. These river valleys created natural fortifications, with steep sandstone cliffs rising dramatically on all sides. To medieval eyes, this location was perfect for defence. The rocky promontory offered commanding views of the surrounding countryside, while the rivers below provided natural moats that would challenge any attacking army. The climate here has always been temperate, with mild summers and relatively gentle winters. Dense forests once covered the surrounding hills, providing timber for construction and fuel for fires. The rivers teemed with fish, and the fertile valleys supported small farming communities. It was an ideal location for a settlement, but it would take human ambition to transform this natural fortress into something truly remarkable. The earliest inhabitants of this region were Celtic tribes who recognized the strategic value of the elevated position. Archaeological evidence suggests that people have lived in this area for over 2,000 years, taking advantage of the natural protection offered by the clifftop location. These early settlers left behind traces of their presence, including pottery fragments and tools, but they established no permanent fortress. That achievement would belong to someone else entirely. The true story of Luxembourg City begins in the year 963, though the events leading to that moment stretch back several decades earlier. The Holy Roman Empire was a complex patchwork of territories, duchies, and kingdoms, all nominally under the authority of the emperor, but often operating with considerable independence. Local nobles competed fiercely for land and influence, building castles and fortifications to secure their holdings. One such nobleman was Siegfried, Count of Ardennes, a powerful figure whose lands stretched across much of what is now eastern Belgium and western Germany. Siegfried was ambitious and strategic, always looking for opportunities to expand his influence and secure his family's future. In 963, he he made a decision that would echo through history for over 1,000 years. The rocky promontory that would become Luxembourg City was then occupied by a small monastery and a few scattered buildings. The location belonged to the Abbey of St. Maximin in Trier, but the monks were willing to negotiate. Siegfried saw the military potential of the site immediately. The natural defences were extraordinary, and the position commanded important trade routes between the Rhine and the Meuse rivers. The exchange that took place in 963 was relatively simple in its terms, but profound in its consequences. Siegfried traded some of his existing lands to the abbey in return for the rocky outcrop and its immediate surroundings. Contemporary records describe the transaction in matter-of-fact language, but they were witnessing the birth of what would eventually become a sovereign nation. Siegfried wasted no time in developing his new acquisition. Within a few years of the exchange, construction had begun on a substantial fortress. The builders worked with the natural contours of the rock, creating walls that seemed to grow organically from the cliff face itself. The main keep was positioned at the highest point, offering panoramic views of the surrounding valleys and forests. The fortress that Siegfried built was not merely a military installation. It was designed to be the centre of a new lordship, a base from which he could control trade and administer justice across a growing territory. The name he chose for his new stronghold reflected both its appearance and its function. He called it Lüchelin-Burhoek, which meant little fortress in the local Germanic dialect. Over time, this would evolve into Letzeburg in Luxembourgish, Luxembourg in French, and Luxembourg in German. The construction of the original fortress was a massive undertaking that required skilled stonemasons, labourers, and enormous quantities of materials. The builders had to work with the challenging geography of the site, carving foundations directly into the living rock and hauling stones up steep cliff faces. The walls they built were thick and strong, designed to withstand both siege engines and the harsh weather that could sweep across the exposed plateau. Within the fortress walls, Siegfried established the basic infrastructure of medieval governance. There was a great hall for holding court and entertaining important visitors, private chambers for the lord and his family, and workshops where craftsmen could produce everything from weapons to everyday household items. A chapel provided space for religious observances, while storerooms and granaries ensured the fortress could survive extended sieges. The location of the fortress proved ideal for controlling trade along the rivers below. Merchants travelling between the major cities of the Holy Roman Empire often passed through the valleys, and Siegfried could levy tolls on their goods while providing protection from bandits and rival lords. This generated a steady stream of income that helped fund further expansion and attracted more settlers to the growing community around the fortress. As word of the new stronghold spread, other nobles took notice. Some saw opportunity for alliance and cooperation, while others viewed Siegfried's growing power with suspicion and concern. The fortress on the cliff quickly became a focal point for the complex political manoeuvring that characterized medieval Europe. The early decades of the fortress were marked by almost constant construction and expansion. Each generation of rulers added new buildings, stronger walls, and more sophisticated defences. The original simple castle grew into a complex of interconnected structures with multiple courtyards, towers, and gates. Underground passages were carved into the rock, creating hidden routes between different parts of the fortress and providing escape routes in case of siege. By the early 11th century, the settlement around the fortress had grown into a proper town. Merchants, craftsmen, and farmers had been drawn by the security and economic opportunities offered by the fortified position. Houses and workshops clustered along the cliff tops and spilled down into the valleys below, connected by steep paths and eventually by the first primitive bridges across the rivers. The rulers of Luxembourg, as they had begun to call themselves, were skilled at navigating the complex politics of medieval Europe. Through strategic marriages, military alliances, and diplomatic negotiations, they gradually expanded their influence far beyond their original rocky stronghold. The Luxembourg dynasty would eventually produce Holy Roman emperors, kings of Bohemia, and some of the most powerful nobles in medieval Europe. But success brought new challenges. As Luxembourg grew in importance, it attracted the attention of larger and more powerful neighbours. The fortress that had once been an isolated stronghold now found itself at the centre of European politics, a prize worth fighting for and a target for ambitious conquerors. The 12th century brought both prosperity and conflict to Luxembourg City. The town continued to grow, with new churches, markets, and residential areas spreading across the plateau and down into the river valleys. Trade flourished as merchants recognised the security and central location offered by the fortress town. The rulers of Luxembourg grew wealthy from tolls, taxes, and the profits of their own commercial ventures. Yet this prosperity came at a price. The strategic importance of Luxembourg made it a coveted prize for neighbouring powers. French kings looked eastward with ambition, while German emperors sought to strengthen their control over this vital crossroads. The English, Dutch, Spanish, and Austrians would all in time cast covetous eyes on the little fortress that had grown into something much more significant. The medieval period was an era of almost constant warfare in Europe, and Luxembourg found itself repeatedly caught in the middle of larger conflicts. The fortress walls that had once seemed impregnable were tested again and again as armies besieged the city. Some attacks were repelled successfully, while others resulted in conquest and occupation by foreign powers. Each siege taught the defenders valuable lessons about fortification and warfare. The castle walls were strengthened and heightened, new towers were added at strategic points, and the underground tunnel system was expanded to allow defenders to move unseen beneath the feet of besieging armies. These tunnels, carved directly from the living rock, would become one of Luxembourg's most distinctive features. The citizens of medieval Luxembourg learned to live with uncertainty and conflict, but they also developed a remarkable resilience and adaptability. When times were peaceful, they focused on trade and prosperity. When war came, they retreated behind their walls and waited for the storm to pass. This pattern of survival through adaptation would become a defining characteristic of Luxembourg throughout its long history. The centuries that followed brought a succession of rulers who left their mark on the growing city. Each dynasty brought new architectural styles, different approaches to governance, and fresh challenges that tested Luxembourg's remarkable ability to adapt and survive. The fortress continued to evolve, becoming less of a simple castle and more of a complex urban fortification that encompassed an entire community. During the 13th century, Luxembourg experienced what many historians consider its first golden age. The Counts of Luxembourg had successfully expanded their influence across much of Central Europe through a combination of military prowess, diplomatic skill, and advantageous marriages. The wealth that flowed back to the capital funded ambitious building projects that transformed the appearance of the city. The most visible sign of this prosperity was the construction of new religious buildings. The old chapel within the fortress walls was expanded into a proper church, while new monasteries and convents were established in the valleys below. These religious institutions served not only spiritual needs, but also practical ones, providing education, healthcare, and social services to the growing population. Trade continued to flourish as Luxembourg's reputation for security and fair dealing spread across Europe. The markets that had once been simple affairs held within the fortress courtyards expanded into permanent structures that lined the main streets of the town. Merchants from as far away as Venice and the Baltic ports established permanent representatives in Luxembourg, recognizing the city's importance as a crossroads of European commerce. the population grew steadily during this period, creating new challenges for urban planning and administration. The original fortress, designed to house a lord and his immediate retinue, now had to accommodate a complex society of nobles, merchants, craftsmen, and labourers. New neighbourhoods developed organically, following the natural contours of the landscape and the practical needs of daily life. Water was always a crucial concern for any medieval city, and Luxembourg's cliff-top location presented particular challenges. While the rivers below provided an abundant supply, getting that water up to the fortress and the growing town required ingenious engineering solutions. A network of wells was dug deep into the rock, while channels and aqueducts carried water from natural springs on the surrounding hillsides. The underground passages that had begun as simple escape routes gradually evolved into a sophisticated network of tunnels, storage chambers, and defensive positions. These subterranean spaces were carved with remarkable skill, following natural fissures in the rock, while creating artificial chambers where needed. The acoustics of these tunnels were so precise that guards could hear conversations taking place hundreds of yards away, providing an early warning system against potential threats. Food production was another constant concern for the medieval city. The rocky plateau offered limited space for agriculture, so the inhabitants of Luxembourg developed close relationships with farming communities in the surrounding valleys and plains. Grain, vegetables, and livestock were brought up the steep paths to the fortress town, while finished goods and protection flowed back down to the countryside. The craft guilds that emerged during this period played a crucial role in the city's economic and social development. Stonemasons, metalworkers, textile producers, and brewers organised themselves into powerful associations that controlled quality standards, training programs, and market access. These guilds became influential political forces, often negotiating directly with the ruling nobility on matters affecting their trades. The 14th century brought new challenges that tested Luxembourg's resilience in ways that previous generations could never have imagined. The Black Death, that terrible pandemic that swept across Europe, reached Luxembourg around 1348. The disease struck with devastating force, killing perhaps a third of the population within a matter of months. The impact of the plague extended far beyond the immediate loss of life. Entire craft workshops were abandoned when their masters and apprentices succumbed to the disease. Trade networks collapsed as cities across Europe struggled with their own mortality crises. The carefully maintained fortress began to show signs of neglect as the surviving population focused on basic survival rather than maintenance and improvement. Yet even this catastrophe demonstrated Luxembourg's fundamental strength. The fortress location that had originally been chosen for defence now proved valuable for quarantine and disease control. The natural isolation of the clifftop community helped limit the spread of infection, while the strong walls kept out desperate refugees who might have carried the plague from other infected areas. The recovery from the Black Death took decades, but when it came, it brought unexpected benefits. The reduced population meant that survivors had access to better housing, more land, and greater economic opportunities. The craft guilds, devastated by the plague, reformed with new structures that were more flexible and responsive to changing conditions. This period of recovery coincided with significant political changes that would reshape Luxembourg's role in European affairs. The Luxembourg dynasty had reached the pinnacle of medieval power, producing a series of Holy Roman emperors who ruled from Prague while maintaining their ancestral fortress as a symbol of their origins and identity. Emperor Charles IV, one of the most successful of the Luxembourg rulers, never forgot his family's humble beginnings on the rocky outcrop above the Alzette River. Even while governing a vast empire that stretched from the Baltic to the Adriatic, he continued to invest in improvements to his ancestral home. Under his patronage, the fortress underwent its most ambitious expansion since the original construction. New towers were added at strategic points around the perimeter, each one designed to provide overlapping fields of fire that would make any assault extremely costly. The main gate was rebuilt with a complex system of multiple barriers, drawbridges, and murder holes that could channel attacking forces into carefully prepared kill zones. These improvements reflected the latest developments in military engineering, incorporating lessons learned from conflicts across Europe. The residential areas within the fortress were also upgraded during this period. The old wooden buildings that had housed the original garrison were replaced with stone structures that offered better protection against both fire and enemy action. Private apartments for noble families included glass windows, a luxury that demonstrated the wealth and sophistication of Luxembourg's ruling class. The town below the fortress continued to expand throughout the 14th century, despite the setbacks caused by plague and periodic conflicts. New churches were built to serve the spiritual needs of different communities within the city, including foreign merchants who had established permanent colonies. These religious buildings often reflected the architectural styles of their patrons' homelands, creating a cosmopolitan atmosphere that was unusual for such a small city. The administrative structures that governed daily life in Luxembourg also became more sophisticated during this period. A complex legal system emerged that balanced the traditional privileges of the nobility with the practical needs of merchants and craftsmen. Court records from this era reveal a society that was remarkably literate and legally conscious, with detailed procedures for everything from property disputes to criminal prosecutions. Education played an increasingly important role in Luxembourg society as the medieval period progressed. While formal schooling was still primarily reserved for the children of nobility and wealthy merchants, the city developed a reputation as a centre of learning that attracted scholars from across Europe. The libraries within the fortress and the monasteries contained manuscripts and documents that were consulted by researchers and diplomats from distant lands. The 15th century brought new challenges as the medieval world began its slow transformation into something recognisably modern. The invention of gunpowder and the development of cannon technology threatened to make traditional fortress walls obsolete. Luxembourg's rulers, like their counterparts across Europe, faced difficult decisions about how to adapt their defences to meet these new threats. The response was characteristically pragmatic and thorough. Rather than abandoning the old walls, Luxembourg's engineers developed new techniques for reinforcing them against artillery bombardment. Earthworks and additional barriers were constructed to absorb the impact of cannonballs, while new gun positions were carved into the rock to allow the defenders to respond with their own firepower. These military innovations were expensive, but Luxembourg's continued prosperity from trade and taxation provided the resources needed for constant upgrades and improvements. The city had become too valuable and too strategically important to be left vulnerable to the new realities of Renaissance warfare. The Renaissance also brought cultural changes that transformed daily life in Luxembourg. New artistic styles influenced the decoration of buildings and public spaces, while humanist ideas challenged traditional approaches to education and governance. The fortress that had once been a purely military installation gradually acquired the characteristics of a Renaissance palace, with elegant courtyards, formal gardens, and reception halls designed to impress visiting dignitaries. Yet beneath these civilized surfaces, the fundamental realities of medieval life persisted. Luxembourg remained a society where armed conflict was never far away, where political alliances shifted with bewildering frequency, and where survival often depended on the ability to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. The skills that had allowed a simple fortress to grow into a European capital would soon be tested in ways that its founders could never have imagined. The dawn of the 16th century marked a turning point that would forever alter Luxembourg's destiny. The medieval world that had nurtured the fortress city was giving way to a new era of nation-states, religious upheaval, and global exploration. For Luxembourg, these changes would bring both unprecedented opportunities and existential threats that would test every lesson learned over 5 centuries of survival. The Protestant Reformation that swept across northern Europe in the early 1500s created deep divisions that reached even into Luxembourg's ancient walls. While the city remained officially Catholic, the religious debates that raged across the continent could not be kept outside the fortress gates. Merchants arriving from German cities brought with them new ideas about faith and governance, while scholars debated theological questions that had profound political implications. The ruling dynasty found itself navigating increasingly treacherous waters as the Holy Roman Empire fractured along religious lines. Traditional alliances that had protected Luxembourg for generations suddenly became liabilities, while new partnerships with Protestant powers offered potential advantages at the cost of religious orthodoxy. The delicate balance that had allowed the small fortress city to maintain its independence required constant recalibration. During this period, Luxembourg's famous casemates began their transformation from simple storage tunnels into something far more sophisticated. Engineers working in the depths of the sandstone cliffs created a labyrinthine network of passages, chambers, and defensive positions that would eventually span over 14 miles. These underground fortifications represented a revolution in military architecture, designed to withstand the increasingly powerful artillery of Renaissance armies. The work was painstakingly slow and dangerous. Miners carved through solid rock using primitive tools, following natural fissures where possible, but creating new passages where the defensive plan demanded. The acoustic properties of these tunnels were carefully engineered so that defenders could communicate across vast distances without being detected by enemies above ground. Ventilation shafts disguised as innocent wells provided fresh air while remaining invisible to besieging forces. These underground defences proved their worth sooner than anyone expected. The religious wars that convulsed Europe in the mid-16th century inevitably reached Luxembourg, as Catholic and Protestant armies crisscrossed the region in their struggle for supremacy. The fortress found itself besieged repeatedly, but the combination of traditional walls and innovative underground positions made it nearly impossible to capture. One particularly memorable siege in 1542 lasted for months, with French forces attempting to starve the defenders into submission. The attackers controlled the surface approaches to the city, but they could not prevent supplies and reinforcements from reaching the fortress through the hidden tunnel network. Defenders emerged from concealed entrances to harass enemy camps, then disappeared back into the rock before retaliation could be organised. The psychological impact of these underground defences was perhaps even more significant than their military value. Besieging armies found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see, in a fortress that seemed to extend far beyond its visible walls. Stories spread across Europe of Luxembourg's impregnable position, enhancing the city's reputation and deterring potential attackers who might otherwise have attempted conquest. Trade continued to flow through Luxembourg, despite the religious conflicts that disrupted commerce across much of Europe. The city's merchants had developed such extensive networks and such reliable reputations that even warring nations often allowed Luxembourg traders safe passage. This neutrality was carefully maintained through diplomatic skill and strategic ambiguity that avoided taking sides in conflicts that could destroy the city's commercial foundations. The wealth generated by this continued trade funded ongoing improvements to both the fortress and the growing town. New residential districts emerged on previously undeveloped parts of the plateau, connected to the original fortress by bridges that spanned the deep valleys carved by the rivers below. These bridges became architectural marvels in their own right, demonstrating engineering skills that impressed visitors from across Europe. The population of Luxembourg continued to grow throughout the 16th century, despite periodic disruptions caused by warfare and religious persecution. The city became a haven for refugees fleeing conflicts in neighbouring regions, particularly skilled craftsmen whose expertise contributed to local prosperity. These newcomers brought fresh ideas about manufacturing, trade and urban organisation that helped Luxembourg adapt to changing economic conditions. The governance of this increasingly complex community required new administrative structures that could balance the competing interests of nobles, merchants, craftsmen and ordinary citizens. A sophisticated legal system emerged that incorporated elements of Roman law, Germanic customs, and local traditions into a coherent framework for resolving disputes and maintaining order. Court records from this period reveal a society that was remarkably diverse and surprisingly tolerant by the standards of its time. Education became increasingly important as Luxembourg's roles in European affairs grew more complex. The city established schools that provided instruction not only in Latin and theology, but also in practical subjects like mathematics, engineering, and modern languages. These educational institutions attracted students from across the region, creating intellectual networks that enhanced Luxembourg's influence far beyond what its small size might suggest. The 17th century brought new challenges as the balance of power in Europe shifted dramatically. The 30 Years' War that devastated much of Central Europe turned Luxembourg into a coveted prize for competing armies. Spanish, French, Austrian, and Swedish forces all recognized the strategic value of the fortress city, leading to a series of sieges and occupations that tested the resilience of both the fortifications and the population. The most significant of these conflicts came in 1684, when French forces under the command of Marshal de Créqui laid siege to Luxembourg with an army of over 30,000 men. The defenders, numbering fewer than 3,000, seemed hopelessly outnumbered. Yet the fortress held out for months, inflicting heavy casualties on the attackers, while maintaining morale through careful rationing and the psychological advantage provided by their underground strongholds. The siege became a defining moment in Luxembourg's history. When the fortress finally surrendered, it was not because the walls had been breached or the defenders defeated in battle. Instead, the garrison yielded only when their ammunition was exhausted, and further resistance would have meant the complete destruction of the civilian population. Even in defeat, Luxembourg had demonstrated that small size did not necessarily mean weakness. French occupation brought both hardships and unexpected benefits. While the conquerors imposed new taxes and administrative systems, they also invested heavily in improving the fortifications. French military engineers, among the best in Europe, recognized the unique advantages of Luxembourg's position and set about enhancing them with the latest developments in defensive architecture. The most visible result of French investment was the construction of new outer walls that extended Luxembourg's defensive perimeter far beyond the original fortress. These works incorporated the latest theories about artillery defense, with star-shaped bastions and carefully calculated angles of fire that could destroy attacking forces before they reached the main walls. The underground tunnel system was also expanded and improved, creating an even more complex network of defensive positions. These improvements came at enormous cost, both financial and human. The French demanded that local residents contribute both money and labour to the construction projects, creating resentment that simmered beneath the surface of apparent cooperation. Yet the enhanced fortifications would prove their value in future conflicts, helping Luxembourg survive challenges that might otherwise have destroyed the city. The civilian population adapted to French rule with characteristic pragmatism. While some fled to other regions, most remained and found ways to prosper under the new administration. Luxembourg's merchants proved particularly adept at working within French commercial regulations while maintaining their traditional trade relationships across Europe. Cultural life in Luxembourg also evolved during the French period. The occupiers brought with them new artistic styles and intellectual traditions that blended with local customs to create something uniquely Luxembourg. Architecture from this period shows clear French influences, yet maintains distinctive local characteristics that reflect the city's complex history and geography. The end of French occupation in 1697, following the Treaty of Ryswick, marked another turning point in Luxembourg's development. The fortress was returned to Spanish control as part of a broader European settlement, but the changes made during the French period could not be undone. Luxembourg emerged from occupation as a more sophisticated and more heavily fortified city than ever before. The 18th century brought relative peace and prosperity to Luxembourg, though the threat of renewed conflict was never far away. The fortress continued to serve its defensive function, while also becoming increasingly important as an administrative centre for the surrounding region. New government buildings were constructed within the walls, designed to accommodate the growing bureaucracy required to manage Luxembourg's complex relationships with various European powers. Trade flourished during the peaceful decades of the early 18th century. Luxembourg's merchants established trading houses in major European cities, while foreign companies opened offices within the fortress town. The city became particularly important in the grain trade, serving as a distribution centre for agricultural products from the fertile plains of northern France and the Low Countries. The population grew steadily throughout this period, creating new challenges for urban planning and resource management. Housing became increasingly scarce within the old fortress walls, leading to the development of new residential areas in the valleys below and on previously undeveloped parts of the plateau. These expansions required new infrastructure, including roads, water systems, and waste management facilities. The engineering challenges posed by Luxembourg's unique geography continued to drive innovation throughout the 18th century. New techniques were developed for building on steep slopes and rocky foundations, while the underground tunnel system was further expanded to provide storage space and defensive positions. These tunnels began to serve civilian purposes as well, housing workshops and warehouses that took advantage of the consistent temperatures and security provided by the rock-carved chambers. Cultural development accelerated during the peaceful decades of the mid-18th century. Luxembourg established its first permanent theatre, attracting performers from across Europe who recognized the sophisticated tastes of the city's diverse population. Art collections assembled by wealthy merchants and nobles became increasingly impressive, while local craftsmen developed distinctive styles that reflected Luxembourg's position at the crossroads of European culture. The intellectual life of the city also flourished during this period. Libraries expanded their collections to include works in multiple languages, reflecting the cosmopolitan character of Luxembourg's educated classes. Scholarly societies emerged that brought together intellectuals from different backgrounds to discuss everything from natural philosophy to political theory. Yet beneath this cultural sophistication, the fundamental realities of Luxembourg's position remained unchanged. The fortress city continued to exist at the mercy of larger powers whose conflicts could disrupt the peaceful prosperity that its citizens had come to expect. The lessons learned over centuries of survival would soon be tested once again as revolutionary changes swept across Europe. The French Revolution, that began in 1789, sent shockwaves across the continent, challenging traditional assumptions about government, society, and national identity. For Luxembourg, these changes would bring both liberation and occupation, transformation and destruction in a pattern that had become grimly familiar over the centuries. Revolutionary armies crossed into Luxembourg in 1794, bringing with them radical new ideas about citizenship, equality, and national sovereignty. The ancient fortress that had withstood so many sieges could not resist the power of revolutionary ideology, which promised to sweep away the old world of kings and nobles in favour of something entirely new. The occupation that followed was unlike anything Luxembourg had experienced in its long history of foreign rule. Previous conquerors had typically maintained existing social structures while simply replacing the ruling elite with their own administrators. The French revolutionaries, however, sought to transform every aspect of life within the ancient walls. The fortress that had symbolized aristocratic power for over 8 centuries suddenly found its purpose fundamentally challenged. Revolutionary authorities declared that such military installations represented the oppression of the common people, yet they could not ignore the strategic value of Luxembourg's position. The result was a period of profound contradiction, as the new rulers simultaneously denounced the fortress while strengthening its defences against counter-revolutionary forces. Traditional religious practices faced systematic suppression during the revolutionary period. Churches that had served the community for centuries were converted to secular purposes or simply abandoned. The bells that had marked the rhythm of daily life for generations fell silent, while religious festivals that had provided colour and meaning to the calendar were replaced with revolutionary celebrations that many residents found alien and disturbing. Yet not all changes brought hardship. The revolutionary government introduced new concepts of citizenship and legal equality that offered opportunities previously denied to ordinary people. Craft guilds that had restricted economic participation for centuries were dissolved, allowing talented individuals to pursue occupations regardless of their family background or social connections. Educational reforms opened schools to children from all social classes, teaching them to read and write in French, while introducing revolutionary principles about government and society. These changes would have lasting effects long after the revolutionary period ended, creating a more literate and politically aware population than Luxembourg had ever known. The economic disruption caused by revolutionary policies was severe but temporary. Traditional trade relationships were severed as Luxembourg became part of a French administrative system that prioritized domestic commerce over international exchange. Many established merchant families saw their fortunes destroyed, while others adapted by finding new opportunities within the revolutionary framework. The fortress itself underwent significant modifications during this period. Revolutionary engineers, like their royal predecessors, recognized the military value of Luxembourg's position and invested heavily in modernizing the defenses. New artillery positions were carved into the rock, while the underground tunnel system was expanded to accommodate larger garrisons and more sophisticated defensive strategies. The most dramatic change was the partial demolition of structures considered symbolic of the old regime. Towers that had housed noble families for centuries were torn down, while ceremonial buildings within the fortress were converted to practical military use. These destructions were often carried out with great ceremony, as revolutionary authorities sought to demonstrate their break with the feudal past. Local resistance to these changes took various forms, from passive non-cooperation to active sabotage. The underground tunnel system that had once protected Luxembourg from foreign enemies now sheltered those who opposed the revolutionary government. Secret meetings were held in rock-carved chambers, while hidden passages allowed dissidents to move undetected through the city. The revolutionary period ended in 1815 with Napoleon's final defeat, but Luxembourg's trials were far from over. The Congress of Vienna that redrew the map of Europe created new uncertainties about the city's future. Diplomats from across the continent debated whether Luxembourg should become part of Prussia, remain with France, or achieve some form of independence. The solution eventually adopted reflected the complex political realities of post-Napoleonic Europe. Luxembourg became a Grand Duchy, nominally independent but closely tied to the Netherlands through personal union under the Dutch king. This arrangement satisfied none of the competing parties completely, but it offered Luxembourg a chance to rebuild after decades of revolutionary upheaval. The new Grand Duke, William I of the Netherlands, approached Luxembourg with the pragmatic attitude that had characterized successful rulers of the fortress city throughout its history. Rather than imposing wholesale changes, he sought to restore stability while gradually introducing reforms that would modernize the administration and economy. The fortress underwent another transformation during this period, as military engineers from multiple nations contributed their expertise to creating what many considered the strongest fortification in Europe. The underground passages were further expanded and improved, creating a subterranean city that could shelter thousands of people during times of siege. These defensive improvements came none too soon. The Belgian Revolution of 1830 created new tensions that threatened to engulf Luxembourg in another destructive conflict. Belgian revolutionaries claimed the western part of Luxembourg as rightfully Belgian, while Dutch and Prussian forces prepared to defend the Grand Duchy's territorial integrity. The siege that followed demonstrated once again the value of Luxembourg's unique defensive position. Belgian forces surrounded the fortress city, but found themselves unable to make meaningful progress against the combination of traditional walls and modern artillery positions. The underground tunnel system allowed defenders to launch surprise attacks while remaining virtually invulnerable to counter battery fire. The civilian population endured months of bombardment with characteristic resilience. Markets continued to operate in the safety of underground chambers, while workshops carved into the rock maintained production of essential goods. Children attended makeshift schools in tunnel classrooms, their lessons punctuated by the distant thunder of artillery exchanges above. When the siege finally ended in 1839, it was through diplomatic negotiation rather than military victory. The Treaty of London divided Luxembourg, giving the western districts to Belgium while confirming the remaining territory as an independent Grand Duchy. This territorial loss was painful, but it established Luxembourg's sovereignty in a way that previous arrangements had not. The period following independence brought unprecedented prosperity to Luxembourg City. The fortress that had once been valued primarily for its military strength now became the centre of a modern state that needed administrative buildings, courts, and all the infrastructure of governance. New construction filled previously empty spaces within the walls, while residential areas spread across the plateau and into the surrounding valleys. The development of railways in the mid-19th century transformed Luxembourg's economic position dramatically. The fortress city that had controlled river trade for centuries now became a crucial junction in the emerging European rail network. Train lines connected Luxembourg to Paris, Brussels, Cologne, and other major cities, carrying both passengers and freight through the Grand Duchy. This transportation revolution attracted new industries to Luxembourg that took advantage of the central location and excellent communications. Steel production began in the southern part of the country, using iron ore deposits that had been known for centuries but never fully exploited. The profits from steel manufacturing flowed back to Luxembourg City, funding new construction and urban improvements. The population grew rapidly during this period of economic expansion. Rural families moved to the capital seeking employment opportunities, while foreign workers arrived to fill positions in the expanding industries and government bureaucracy. Housing construction struggled to keep pace with demand, leading to the development of new neighbourhoods that extended far beyond the original fortress walls. Cultural life flourished as Luxembourg City established its identity as a true capital rather than merely a fortress town. Museums were founded to preserve the city's remarkable history, while theatres and concert halls provided entertainment for the growing population. The unique position between French and German cultural spheres created a distinctive Luxembourg identity that borrowed from both traditions while maintaining its own character. The education system expanded dramatically to serve the needs of a modern state. New schools were built in every district of the city, offering instruction in Luxembourgish, French and German to prepare students for careers in an increasingly internationalized economy. Higher education opportunities were also developed, reducing the need for talented young people to seek training abroad. The fortress itself gradually lost its purely military character during the second half of the 19th century. While the walls and underground passages were maintained, many of the defensive positions were converted to civilian use. Government offices occupied former barracks, while tourist visitors began to explore the famous casemates that had once been military secrets. This transformation reflected broader changes in European warfare that made traditional fortifications less relevant. The development of long-range artillery and more mobile military tactics meant that fixed defences like Luxembourg's fortress were increasingly obsolete. Yet the city's leaders recognised that these historic fortifications had value beyond their military function. The preservation of Luxembourg's architectural heritage became a matter of national pride and international recognition. Visitors from across Europe came to admire the unique combination of medieval walls, Renaissance modifications, and modern urban development that characterized the capital. These tourists brought revenue and international attention that enhanced Luxembourg's growing reputation as a sophisticated European centre. The approach of the 20th century found Luxembourg City transformed beyond recognition from the simple fortress that Siegfried had established nearly 1,000 years earlier. Yet certain fundamental characteristics remained unchanged. The city continued to thrive through adaptation and pragmatic accommodation with larger powers, maintaining its independence through careful navigation of complex international relationships. The underground passages that had protected medieval defenders now housed modern utilities and storage facilities. The walls that had withstood cannon bombardment provided foundations for apartment buildings and office complexes. The strategic position that had attracted a medieval count now drew international businesses seeking a central European location with excellent transportation links. As Luxembourg entered the modern era, its citizens could look back with pride on a remarkable history of survival and adaptation. The little fortress on the cliff had grown into the capital of a sovereign nation, home to international institutions and global financial centres. Yet beneath the surface changes, the essential spirit of pragmatic resilience that had enabled 1,000 years of survival remained as strong as ever. The challenges that lay ahead in the 20th century would test this resilience in ways that previous generations could never have imagined. 2 world wars, economic upheavals, and the emergence of global institutions would all leave their mark on Luxembourg City, but the foundations laid over centuries of adaptation and survival would prove strong enough to support whatever transformations the future might bring. The dawn of the 20th century brought with it technological marvels that would reshape daily life in Luxembourg City in ways both subtle and profound. Electric lighting began to replace gas lamps along the ancient streets, while telephone lines connected the Grand Duchy to major European capitals with unprecedented speed and reliability. These modern conveniences created striking contrasts as medieval stone walls housed the latest innovations in communication and transportation. The automobile made its appearance in Luxembourg during the first decade of the new century, though the steep streets and narrow passages of the old fortress presented significant challenges for early motorists. Roads that had been designed for horse-drawn carts and pedestrian traffic required extensive modification to accommodate the growing number of motor vehicles that wealthy residents began to acquire. Banking and finance started to emerge as important sectors of Luxembourg's economy during this period. Though few could have predicted the central role these industries would eventually play in the city's development. International businesses recognized the advantages offered by Luxembourg's political stability, central location, and sophisticated legal system. Small financial institutions established offices within the fortress walls, beginning a transformation that would eventually make Luxembourg one of Europe's most important financial centres. The cultural life of the capital continued to evolve as Luxembourg established its place among the sophisticated cities of Europe. Art galleries displayed works by both local artists and international masters, while literary societies promoted writing in Luxembourgish, French and German. The multilingual character of the city's intellectual life reflected Luxembourg's position at the crossroads of European culture, where different traditions met and mingled in unique ways. Educational opportunities expanded significantly during the early years of the 20th century. Technical schools were established to train workers for the growing industrial sector, while academic institutions prepared students for careers in government, law, and international commerce. The University of Luxembourg, though not formally established until much later, had its roots in the scholarly institutions that emerged during this period of rapid development. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 brought an abrupt end to the peaceful prosperity that Luxembourg had enjoyed since the 1870s. Despite the Grand Duchy's declared neutrality, German forces occupied the country within hours of the war's beginning. The ancient fortress that had withstood so many sieges found itself occupied without a shot being fired, as modern military realities made resistance impossible against overwhelming force. German occupation during World War I was relatively benign compared to what would come later, but it still disrupted normal life in fundamental ways. The occupying authorities imposed censorship and restricted movement, while economic controls limited trade and industrial production. The underground passages that had once sheltered defenders now provided hiding places for patriotic citizens who refused to collaborate with the occupiers. The civilian population endured 4 years of occupation with characteristic determination, finding ways to maintain their cultural identity and prepare for eventual liberation. Secret schools continued to teach in Luxembourgish, while underground networks helped Allied prisoners of war escape to neutral countries. These resistance activities were dangerous, but they demonstrated the unbreakable spirit that had enabled Luxembourg to survive centuries of foreign domination. Liberation came in 1918 with Germany's defeat, but the war had fundamentally changed Luxembourg's relationship with the outside world. The Grand Duchy's strategic importance was now understood in terms of global rather than merely European conflicts. This recognition would bring both opportunities and dangers in the years that followed. The interwar period saw Luxembourg City modernize at an accelerated pace, as the government sought to rebuild and strengthen the country's position in the new European order. Infrastructure projects improved transportation links with neighbouring countries, while urban planning initiatives addressed the housing shortages that had developed during the war years. The financial sector began its dramatic expansion during the 1920s, as international businesses sought stable locations for their European operations. Luxembourg's political neutrality, combined with its excellent communications and transportation links, made it an attractive base for companies seeking to operate across national boundaries. Banking regulations were modernized to attract international capital, laying the groundwork for the transformation that would accelerate after World War II. Cultural institutions flourished during the prosperous 1920s as Luxembourg City established itself as a centre of international cooperation and cultural exchange. Museums expanded their collections to include contemporary works, while theatres and concert halls attracted performers from across Europe. The city's multilingual character proved particularly valuable in facilitating communication between different national groups. The economic crisis of the 1930s tested Luxembourg's resilience once again, as global depression reduced demand for steel and disrupted international trade. Unemployment rose sharply in Luxembourg City, while government revenues declined due to reduced industrial production. Yet the diversified economy that had developed over previous decades helped cushion the impact of the crisis. The rise of Nazi Germany created new threats that Luxembourg's leaders watched with growing concern. The Grand Duchy's position between France and Germany made it a natural target for German expansion, while its Jewish population faced increasing persecution from Nazi sympathizers. Preparations for potential conflict began discreetly, though few believed that Luxembourg's ancient defences could withstand modern military assault. The German invasion of May 10, 1940, confirmed these fears with brutal efficiency. Modern warfare had made traditional fortifications obsolete, and Luxembourg City fell within hours, despite the courage of its small garrison. The occupation that followed was far harsher than anything experienced during World War I, as Nazi authorities sought to eliminate Luxembourg's national identity entirely. The fortress city that had preserved its independence for over a century suddenly found itself designated for incorporation into the German Reich. Street signs were changed to German, while Luxembourgish and French were banned from public use. The underground passages that had protected so many previous generations now sheltered resistance fighters who risked their lives to maintain their country's identity. Deportations began in 1942, targeting Jewish residents and political opponents of the Nazi regime. The ancient walls that had once kept enemies out now witnessed the departure of loyal citizens who would never return. These deportations represented one of the darkest chapters in Luxembourg's long history, a reminder that even the strongest defences cannot protect against certain forms of evil. Yet resistance continued throughout the occupation, often centred in the underground spaces that had served defensive purposes for centuries. Secret printing presses produced newspapers that maintained morale, while escape networks helped Allied airmen reach safety. The same tunnels that had frustrated medieval besiegers now concealed modern patriots fighting for their country's survival. Liberation came on September 10, 1944, when American forces entered Luxembourg City to scenes of jubilant celebration. The fortress that had endured nearly 4.5 years of Nazi occupation was free again, though the scars of war would take years to heal. The damage extended far beyond physical destruction to include the loss of citizens who had been murdered simply for being Jewish or for resisting tyranny. The post-war reconstruction of Luxembourg City began immediately, guided by leaders who understood that the country's survival depended on adapting to the new realities of international relations. The old policy of neutrality had failed to protect Luxembourg from Nazi aggression, leading to a fundamental reorientation toward active participation in international organizations. Luxembourg became a founding member of NATO in 1949, formally abandoning the neutrality that had characterized its foreign policy since independence. The ancient fortress, which had always served defensive purposes, now became part of a collective security system that extended across the Atlantic. This transformation reflected Luxembourg's recognition that small countries could best ensure their security through alliance, rather than isolation. The European integration movement that emerged after World War II found enthusiastic support in Luxembourg, where leaders understood the benefits of international cooperation. The Grand Duchy became a founding member of the European Coal and Steel Community in 1951, hosting institutions that would eventually evolve into the European Union. This decision to embrace European integration would prove crucial to Luxembourg's future prosperity and security. The establishment of European institutions in Luxembourg City transformed the capital in ways that echoed its medieval role as a crossroads of international commerce. Diplomats, civil servants, and international business representatives flocked to the city, creating demand for hotels, restaurants, and services that had never existed before. The population grew rapidly as Luxembourg became a truly international city while maintaining its distinctive character. The banking sector experienced explosive growth during the 1960s and 1970s as Luxembourg developed into one of Europe's premier financial centres. International banks established headquarters in modern glass buildings that rose alongside medieval walls, creating a unique skyline that symbolised the city's successful blend of tradition and innovation. The euro-dollar market found a welcoming home in Luxembourg, where favourable regulations and political stability attracted capital from around the world. The development of the Kirchberg Plateau during this period represented one of the most ambitious urban planning projects in Luxembourg's history. This previously undeveloped area across the valley from the old fortress became home to European institutions, international banks, and modern residential complexes. Bridges spanning the deep valleys connected this new district to the historic centre, creating a unified city that encompassed both ancient and contemporary elements. The European Court of Justice established its permanent home in Luxembourg during the 1950s, followed by other EU institutions that recognised the advantages of the Grand Duchy's central location and multilingual population. These institutions brought thousands of international civil servants to the city, transforming Luxembourg into a truly cosmopolitan capital where dozens of languages could be heard on any street corner. Cultural diversity flourished as the international community grew larger and more influential. Restaurants serving cuisine from around the world opened alongside traditional Luxembourg establishments, while cultural centres promoted the arts and literature of many nations. The city's museums expanded their collections to reflect this international character, displaying artifacts and artworks that told the story of European integration and global cooperation. The preservation of Luxembourg's historic fortress became a priority during the post-war reconstruction period. International experts recognized the unique value of the city's medieval and Renaissance fortifications, leading to careful restoration projects that maintained the authentic character while adapting structures for modern use. The famous casemates were open to tourists, allowing visitors to explore the underground passages that had protected the city for centuries. These conservation efforts reflected a broader understanding that Luxembourg's historic character was itself an economic asset. Tourism grew steadily as word spread about the remarkable fortress city perched on its dramatic cliffs. Visitors came not only to see the ancient walls and underground tunnels, but also to experience a living city where history and modernity coexisted in remarkable harmony. The education system evolved to serve the needs of an increasingly international population while maintaining Luxembourg's distinctive multilingual traditions. Schools offered instruction in Luxembourgish, French, German, and English, preparing students for careers in a globalized economy. The University of Luxembourg, finally established in 2003, brought higher education to the capital while conducting research that enhanced the country's reputation for innovation and academic excellence. Transportation infrastructure underwent constant improvement to serve Luxembourg's role as an international centre. The airport expanded repeatedly to accommodate growing numbers of business travellers and tourists, while rail connections linked the capital to major European cities with increasing speed and frequency. The development of high-speed rail connections would eventually allow travellers to reach Paris, Brussels, or Frankfurt within hours of leaving Luxembourg's central station. The growth of the financial sector during the 1980s and 1990s transformed Luxembourg into one of the world's major investment fund centres. International asset management companies established operations in the Grand Duchy, attracted by sophisticated regulatory frameworks and Luxembourg's reputation for discretion and stability. The city's banking district expanded far beyond its original boundaries within the fortress walls, spreading across multiple districts that housed the headquarters of global financial institutions. Luxembourg's emergence as a major centre for satellite communications and media companies during the late 20th century added another dimension to the city's international character. SES, one of the world's largest satellite operators, established its headquarters in Luxembourg, followed by other technology companies that recognized the advantages of the Grand Duchy's strategic location and business-friendly environment. The residential character of Luxembourg City evolved dramatically as the international population grew and prospered. Luxury housing developments appeared in previously undeveloped areas, while historic buildings within the old town were carefully restored and converted to modern apartments. The demand for quality housing drove prices higher, but it also funded preservation projects that maintained the city's unique architectural heritage. Public transportation systems were modernized to serve the growing metropolitan area that now extended far beyond the original fortress boundaries. Bus lines connected residential suburbs to business districts, while park and ride facilities allowed commuters to leave their cars outside the congested city centre. These improvements reflected Luxembourg's commitment to sustainable development that balanced economic growth with environmental protection. The cultural calendar of Luxembourg City became increasingly sophisticated as the international community demanded world-class entertainment and educational opportunities. Music festivals attracted renowned performers from around the globe, while art exhibitions showcased both contemporary works and historical treasures. The Philharmonie Luxembourg, opened in 2005, provided a venue worthy of the city's growing reputation as a cultural centre. Dining in Luxembourg evolved to reflect the city's international character while maintaining traditional elements that connected residents to their heritage. Michelin-starred restaurants opened alongside neighbourhood bistros that had served local families for generations. The city's markets continued to operate in spaces that had hosted commerce for centuries, though the goods offered now reflected Luxembourg's position as a global crossroads. The technology sector began to emerge as another pillar of Luxembourg's economy during the early 21st century. Data centres took advantage of the country's political stability and excellent internet infrastructure, while fintech companies developed innovative solutions for the financial services industry. These new industries found space in modern buildings that complemented rather than competed with the historic structures that defined Luxembourg's skyline. Environmental sustainability became an increasing priority as Luxembourg City grappled with the challenges of rapid growth and international prominence. Green building standards were implemented for new construction, while historic structures were retrofitted with energy-efficient systems that reduced their environmental impact without compromising their architectural integrity. Public spaces were enhanced with gardens and parks that provided relief from urban density. The European institutions continued to expand their presence in Luxembourg throughout the early decades of the 21st century, reinforcing the city's role as a capital of European integration. The European Investment Bank grew into one of the world's largest multilateral financial institutions, while other EU agencies established regional headquarters that coordinated activities across the continent. Luxembourg's unique linguistic heritage proved increasingly valuable in an era of global communication and cultural exchange. The city's trilingual education system produced citizens who could function effectively in international environments, while translation and interpretation services supported the complex multilingual requirements of European institutions and international businesses. The preservation of Luxembourg's underground fortifications became a source of particular pride and international recognition. UNESCO World Heritage designation acknowledged the unique value of the city's historic centre and fortifications, ensuring that future development would respect the archaeological and architectural treasures that lay beneath the modern streets. Research institutions began to establish themselves in Luxembourg during the early 21st century, attracted by government support for innovation and the presence of highly educated international workforce. Scientific research centres focused on areas ranging from space technology to biomedical research, contributing to Luxembourg's evolution from a traditional fortress city into a centre of knowledge-based industries. The art scene flourished as Luxembourg City attracted artists and performers from around the world who were drawn by the city's unique cultural environment and generous support for creative endeavours. Galleries and studios occupied spaces in both historic and contemporary buildings, while public art installations connected the city's ancient heritage with contemporary artistic expression. Sports and recreation facilities expanded to serve the needs of an increasingly diverse and active population. Modern fitness centres and sports complexes were built alongside traditional facilities, while the surrounding countryside continued to provide opportunities for hiking, cycling, and other outdoor activities that had attracted residents for generations. The retail sector adapted to serve both local residents and the growing number of international visitors who came to Luxembourg for business or tourism. Luxury boutiques opened alongside traditional shops, while markets and shopping centres provided convenient access to goods from around the world. The city's commercial districts maintained their historic character while accommodating modern retail requirements. Luxembourg's commitment to social cohesion remained strong despite rapid economic growth and demographic change. Social services expanded to serve the needs of diverse communities, while integration programs helped newcomers adapt to life in the Grand Duchy while maintaining their own cultural identities. This approach reflected Luxembourg's long experience with managing diversity and change. The justice system evolved to handle the complex legal requirements of an international financial centre while maintaining the traditional emphasis on fairness and due process that had characterised Luxembourg law for centuries. Specialised courts were established to handle commercial disputes and international cases, while traditional criminal and civil courts continued to serve local communities. Healthcare services expanded and modernised to serve the growing population and meet international standards expected by the expatriate community. New hospitals and clinics were built with the latest medical technology, while traditional healthcare practices were preserved and integrated into comprehensive wellness programs. The future of Luxembourg City appeared bright as the 21st century progressed, with continued growth in financial services, technology, and international institutions. Yet challenges remained, including the need to balance rapid development with preservation of historic character and the requirement to maintain social cohesion amid increasing diversity and economic inequality. Traffic congestion became an ongoing concern as the number of cross-border commuters grew and the city's economic success attracted more businesses and residents. Innovative solutions were explored, including improved public transportation, flexible working arrangements, and urban planning strategies that reduced the need for long-distance commuting. Housing affordability emerged as a significant challenge as Luxembourg's economic success drove property prices beyond the reach of many traditional residents. Government programs were developed to ensure that local families could continue to live in the communities where their ancestors had resided for generations, while new housing developments attempted to meet growing demand. The relationship between Luxembourg City and the surrounding region became increasingly important as the metropolitan area expanded beyond traditional boundaries. Cooperation agreements with neighbouring communities in France, Germany, and Belgium addressed shared challenges related to transportation, environmental protection, and economic development. Luxembourg's role in global financial markets continued to evolve as international regulations and market conditions changed. The city's financial institutions adapted to new requirements while maintaining the competitive advantages that had attracted international capital for decades. Innovation in financial services remained a priority as Luxembourg sought to maintain its position among the world's leading financial centres. The commitment to multilingual education and cultural diversity remained a defining characteristic of Luxembourg City as it entered the third decade of the 21st century. New schools and educational programs were developed to serve the children of international families while ensuring that Luxembourgish language and culture remained vibrant and relevant. Environmental challenges associated with rapid urban growth received increasing attention as Luxembourg committed to sustainable development goals and climate change mitigation. Green technology initiatives were launched to reduce the city's carbon footprint, while urban planning strategies emphasized public transportation, energy efficiency, and protection of natural areas. The story of Luxembourg City continued to unfold as ancient walls sheltered modern institutions and medieval streets carried international commerce. The same adaptability and resilience that had enabled a simple fortress to survive for over 1,000 years now guided the capital of a sovereign nation through the complexities of global integration and technological change. Change, the transformation of Luxembourg City in the 21st century, accelerated at a pace that would have astonished even the most ambitious medieval rulers. Digital technology began reshaping every aspect of daily life, from the way businesses operated to how residents communicated with friends and family across the globe. The ancient fortress that had once relied on signal fires and messenger pigeons to communicate with the outside world now pulsed with fibre optic cables and wireless networks that connected it instantly to every corner of the Earth. The emergence of Luxembourg as a space industry hub marked perhaps the most dramatic departure from its terrestrial origins. Companies specializing in satellite technology and space mining established headquarters in the Grand Duchy, attracted by forward-thinking legislation and government support for emerging industries. The contrast was striking. Boardrooms discussing asteroid mining ventures occupied buildings whose foundations rested on rock carved by medieval stonemasons. Artificial intelligence and machine learning began transforming the financial sector that had become so central to Luxembourg's economy. Algorithmic trading systems processed transactions in microseconds, while computer programs analyzed market patterns with precision that human traders could never match. Yet these technological marvels operated from offices that looked out over fortress walls where sentries had once watched for approaching armies. The cryptocurrency revolution found fertile ground in Luxembourg's innovative regulatory environment. Blockchain companies established operations in the Grand Duchy, bringing with them a new generation of entrepreneurs who saw digital assets as the future of finance. Traditional banks adapted by incorporating cryptocurrency services, demonstrating once again Luxembourg's remarkable ability to embrace change while maintaining stability. Climate change emerged as a defining challenge for Luxembourg City as global temperatures rose and weather patterns shifted. The rivers that had provided natural defences for over a millennium began experiencing more frequent flooding, requiring new engineering solutions that built upon centuries of water management experience. Ancient drainage systems were upgraded with modern pumping stations, while flood barriers protected areas that had never needed such protection before. Urban planning evolved to address the heat island effects that plagued many modern cities. Green roofs appeared on both contemporary buildings and carefully adapted historic structures, while urban forests were planted in previously developed areas. The underground spaces that had once sheltered defenders now housed geothermal systems that provided sustainable heating and cooling for the buildings above. The gig economy transformed employment patterns throughout Luxembourg City as traditional career paths gave way to more flexible arrangements. Freelance consultants worked from co-working spaces housed in renovated fortress buildings, while app-based services connected residents with everything from food delivery to home repairs. These changes reflected broader shifts in how people approached work and lifestyle in the digital age. Social media and digital communication platforms connected Luxembourg's residents to global communities while sometimes creating new forms of isolation within their own neighbourhoods. Community organisations worked to maintain personal connections that had traditionally bound residents together, organising festivals and events that brought people together in physical spaces rather than virtual ones. The sharing economy found particular success in Luxembourg City, where high property values made traditional ownership models challenging for many residents. Car sharing services reduced traffic congestion while providing mobility options for those who could not afford private vehicles. Apartment sharing platforms helped visitors experience the city from a local perspective while providing additional income for residents. E-government initiatives streamlined interactions between citizens and public services, allowing residents to complete many administrative tasks online rather than visiting government offices in person. These digital services were designed with multiple language options that reflected Luxembourg's multilingual heritage, ensuring that all residents could access public services regardless of their linguistic background. The healthcare system embraced telemedicine and digital health monitoring technologies that improved care while reducing costs. Wearable devices tracked vital signs and activity levels, while smartphone apps helped residents manage chronic conditions and maintain healthy lifestyles. These innovations were particularly valuable for Luxembourg's aging population, who could maintain independence longer with technological assistance. Education continued evolving to prepare students for an increasingly digital world while preserving the multilingual advantages that had long distinguished Luxembourg schools. Coding and computer science joined traditional subjects in the curriculum, while virtual reality systems allowed students to explore historical events and distant places without leaving their classrooms. The tourism industry adapted to changing traveller expectations by developing digital guides and augmented reality experiences that enhanced visits to Luxembourg's historic sites. Smartphone apps provided detailed information about the fortress and underground passages, while virtual tours allowed people around the world to explore the city remotely. Food culture in Luxembourg embraced both global trends and local traditions as the city's restaurants incorporated international influences while maintaining distinctive regional elements. Food delivery apps connected residents with cuisines from around the world, while farmers' markets continued to provide locally grown products that connected people to the surrounding countryside. The arts community leveraged digital platforms to reach global audiences while maintaining strong local roots. Musicians streamed performances online, visual artists sold works through digital marketplaces, and writers published in multiple languages for international readers. These digital opportunities provided new revenue streams while expanding cultural exchange beyond traditional boundaries. Transportation systems integrated digital technologies to improve efficiency and reduce environmental impact. Smart traffic management systems optimized signal timing to reduce congestion, while electric vehicle charging stations appeared throughout the city. Public transportation apps provided real-time information that helped residents plan their journeys more effectively. The retail sector underwent dramatic transformation as online shopping changed consumer behaviour and expectations. Traditional stores adapted by developing omnichannel strategies that combined physical and digital experiences, while new businesses emerged that existed primarily in virtual spaces. Shopping districts evolved to emphasize experience and service rather than simple product distribution. Cybersecurity became a critical concern as Luxembourg's digital infrastructure attracted both legitimate businesses and malicious actors. Government agencies and private companies invested heavily in protecting systems that controlled everything from financial transactions to traffic signals. The same vigilance that had once watched for physical threats now monitored digital networks for signs of intrusion. The concept of work-life balance took on new meaning as remote work options became more common and technology blurred the boundaries between professional and personal time. Flexible schedules allowed residents to avoid peak commuting hours while maintaining productivity, though some struggled to disconnect from work when their offices existed primarily in digital spaces. Artificial intelligence began assisting with city planning and resource management, analyzing traffic patterns, energy consumption, and demographic trends to optimize urban systems. These digital tools provided insights that helped officials make informed decisions about infrastructure investments and policy changes. The circular economy gained traction as Luxembourg sought to reduce waste and maximize resource efficiency. Recycling programs expanded beyond traditional materials to include electronic devices and other complex products, while businesses developed new models based on reuse and refurbishment rather than disposal. Mental health services adapted to address the challenges of modern urban life, including social media addiction, information overload, and the isolation that sometimes accompanied digital connectivity. Counseling services were offered both in person and through digital platforms, while community programs encouraged face-to-face interactions and outdoor activities. The concept of smart cities influenced Luxembourg's approach to urban development as sensors and data analytics were integrated into infrastructure systems. Street lighting adjusted automatically to conditions and usage patterns, while parking systems guided drivers to available spaces. These innovations improved efficiency while reducing energy consumption and environmental impact. Luxembourg's position as a European capital took on new dimensions as digital governance and cross-border data flows became increasingly important. The city hosted conferences and working groups that addressed challenges related to digital sovereignty, data protection, and online rights. These discussions reflected Luxembourg's continued role as a bridge between different European perspectives and approaches. The elderly population benefited particularly from technological innovations that supported aging in place and maintained social connections. Video calling platforms kept families connected across distances, while medical monitoring devices provided peace of mind for both seniors and their relatives. Smart home systems automated routine tasks while alerting caregivers to potential problems. Cultural preservation efforts embraced digital technologies to document and share Luxembourg's heritage with future generations. Virtual museums preserved artifacts and documents in digital formats, while oral history projects recorded the memories of longtime residents. These initiatives ensured that Luxembourg's unique culture would survive even as the city continued to evolve. The integration of renewable energy sources transformed Luxembourg's approach to power generation and consumption. Solar panels appeared on rooftops throughout the city, while wind turbines were installed in appropriate locations outside the historic centre. Energy storage systems helped balance supply and demand while reducing dependence on fossil fuels. International collaboration took on new forms as digital communication platforms enabled real-time cooperation between Luxembourg and partner cities around the world. Sister city relationships evolved beyond ceremonial exchanges to include joint research projects, cultural programs, and economic development initiatives that benefited all participants. The emergence of the Internet of Things connected everyday objects to digital networks, creating opportunities for improved efficiency and new services. Smart meters monitored energy and water usage, while connected appliances optimized their operation based on usage patterns and utility rates. These innovations reduced waste while providing residents with greater control over their resource consumption. Luxembourg's approach to innovation balanced technological advancement with social responsibility, ensuring that digital transformation benefited all residents rather than creating new forms of inequality. Digital literacy programs helped older residents and those with limited technological experience participate fully in the evolving economy and society. The financial sector continued adapting to digital currencies and new payment systems while maintaining the stability and security that had attracted international clients for decades. Regulatory frameworks evolved to address emerging technologies while preserving the competitive advantages that made Luxembourg attractive to global financial institutions. Urban agriculture emerged as both a response to food security concerns and a way to reconnect residents with food production. Rooftop gardens and vertical farms appeared throughout the city, while community gardens provided spaces for neighbours to work together on shared projects. These initiatives reduced food transportation costs while strengthening social bonds. The development of quantum computing research facilities positioned Luxembourg at the forefront of the next technological revolution. International partnerships brought together researchers from multiple countries to explore applications in cryptography, financial modelling, and scientific simulation. These investments reflected Luxembourg's commitment to remaining competitive in emerging technologies. Digital art and virtual exhibitions expanded cultural opportunities beyond the constraints of physical spaces and traditional opening hours. Online galleries showcased works by local and international artists, while virtual reality installations allowed viewers to experience art in entirely new ways. These innovations complemented rather than replaced traditional cultural institutions. The concept of lifelong learning became increasingly important as technological change accelerated the pace at which skills became obsolete. Educational institutions developed programs that allowed working adults to update their knowledge and abilities, while online platforms provided access to specialized training that might not be available locally. Luxembourg's multilingual heritage proved particularly valuable in the global digital economy, where the ability to communicate across cultural and linguistic boundaries provided significant competitive advantages. Translation services and international communication remained important sectors, while multilingual content creation became a specialty that attracted clients from around the world. The city's approach to data governance balanced privacy protection with the benefits of information sharing, developing frameworks that protected individual rights while enabling beneficial uses of aggregated data. These policies influenced broader European discussions about digital rights and responsibilities. Urban mobility evolved beyond traditional transportation categories as new forms of movement emerged. Electric scooters and bikes provided last-mile connectivity, while autonomous vehicles began testing on designated routes. The integration of these new options required careful planning to ensure they complemented rather than competed with existing transportation systems. The emergence of virtual workspaces changed the relationship between Luxembourg City and its surrounding region, as employees no longer needed to live within commuting distance of their offices. Some residents moved to smaller communities while maintaining their Luxembourg-based careers, while others relocated to the capital to take advantage of cultural and educational opportunities. Luxembourg's commitment to environmental sustainability influenced every aspect of urban development as the city worked to achieve carbon neutrality while maintaining economic growth. Green building standards became more stringent, while renewable energy requirements increased for both new construction and existing buildings. The integration of health monitoring into urban infrastructure provided early warning systems for disease outbreaks and environmental health threats. Air quality sensors tracked pollution levels in real time, while water quality monitoring ensured the safety of public supplies. These systems provided data that helped officials respond quickly to potential problems. As Luxembourg City moved deeper into the 21st century, the same qualities that had enabled a medieval fortress to survive and thrive continued to guide its evolution. Adaptability, pragmatism, and openness to change remained central to the city's character, while respect for tradition and commitment to community provided stability amid rapid transformation. The ancient walls that had protected generations of residents now sheltered a modern metropolis that faced the future with confidence, built on centuries of successful adaptation to changing times. The digital revolution that transformed Luxembourg City in the early 21st century was merely the latest chapter in a story of continuous adaptation that stretched back over a millennium. As artificial intelligence began managing traffic flows through streets where medieval merchants had once led pack trains, the fundamental character of the city remained remarkably consistent. Luxembourg had always been a place where innovation met tradition, where practical solutions emerged from the intersection of different cultures and ideas. The space industry's emergence as a major economic sector represented perhaps the most dramatic evolution in Luxembourg's long history of embracing new opportunities. Satellite operators and asteroid mining companies established headquarters in buildings that cast shadows over fortress walls built to withstand medieval siege engines. The contrast was striking yet somehow natural, as if the same ambition that had driven Count Siegfried to claim his rocky promontory now propelled Luxembourg toward the stars. These space ventures operated under regulatory frameworks that reflected Luxembourg's traditional approach to international commerce. The government developed legislation that encouraged innovation while maintaining the stability and predictability that had attracted businesses for centuries. Space mining rights were granted through processes that echoed the careful legal procedures medieval rulers had used to manage trade concessions and territorial claims. The cryptocurrency boom found fertile ground in Luxembourg's sophisticated financial sector, which had spent decades refining its approach to new forms of capital and investment. Blockchain companies were drawn by the same regulatory clarity and political stability that had attracted traditional banks, while existing financial institutions adapted their services to accommodate digital assets. The underground vaults that had once stored gold and securities now housed the servers that secured digital wallets and processed cryptocurrency transactions. Climate change presented challenges that tested Luxembourg's engineering ingenuity in ways reminiscent of medieval flood control projects. The Alzette and Pétrus rivers, which had provided natural defences for over 1,000 years, now required sophisticated management systems to prevent flooding during increasingly severe storms. Modern pumping stations and retention basins worked alongside ancient drainage channels, creating flood protection systems that spanned centuries of technological development. Urban heat became a growing concern as Luxembourg City expanded beyond its original river valleys onto the surrounding plateau. The same microclimates that had influenced medieval settlement patterns now guided the placement of cooling systems and green spaces designed to moderate temperatures in densely built areas. Rooftop gardens appeared on both contemporary office buildings and carefully adapted historic structures, their growing plants providing insulation and air purification that complemented mechanical climate control systems. The gig economy transformed employment relationships throughout Luxembourg in ways that echoed the medieval guild system while embracing modern flexibility. Freelance consultants formed professional associations that provided training and advocacy, much as craft guilds had once regulated trades and protected their members' interests. Co-working spaces occupied renovated fortress buildings, where independent professionals shared resources and expertise in environments that fostered collaboration rather than competition. Digital platforms connected Luxembourg's residents to global markets and communities, while sometimes creating new forms of social isolation within their immediate neighbourhoods. Community organisations worked to maintain the personal connections that had traditionally bound residents together, organising festivals and events that brought people into physical contact with their neighbours. These efforts reflected an understanding that technology, however sophisticated, could not fully replace human interaction and mutual support. The sharing economy found particular success in Luxembourg City, where high property values and limited space made traditional ownership models challenging for many residents. Car-sharing services reduced the number of vehicles in the historic centre, while providing mobility options for those who could not afford private transportation. Apartment-sharing platforms allowed visitors to experience the city from a local perspective, while providing residents with additional income that helped offset rising housing costs. Government services embraced digital transformation while maintaining the multilingual accessibility that had always characterized Luxembourg's public administration. Online portals offered services in Luxembourgish, French and German, with English options for the growing international community. These digital systems streamlined bureaucratic processes while preserving the personal attention and cultural sensitivity that residents expected from their government. Healthcare evolved to incorporate remote monitoring and telemedicine technologies that improved access while reducing costs. Wearable devices tracked vital signs and activity levels, transmitting data to healthcare providers who could intervene before minor problems became major crises. These innovations were particularly valuable for Luxembourg's aging population, allowing elderly residents to maintain independence while receiving the medical attention they needed. Educational institutions adapted their curricula to prepare students for careers in an increasingly digital economy while preserving the multilingual advantages that had long distinguished Luxembourg schools. Computer science and data analysis joined traditional subjects, while virtual reality systems allowed students to explore historical events and distant places without leaving their classrooms. The same emphasis on language learning that had prepared previous generations for international careers now included programming languages alongside human ones. Tourism embraced augmented reality and digital guides that enhanced visitors' experiences of Luxembourg's historic sites, while preserving the authentic character that attracted travellers from around the world. Smartphone applications provided detailed information about the fortress and underground passages, allowing tourists to explore at their own pace while learning about the remarkable history embedded in every stone. Virtual tours reached global audiences who might never visit Luxembourg physically, but could still appreciate its unique heritage. The food scene reflected Luxembourg's position at the crossroads of European culture, with restaurants offering everything from traditional, regional dishes to innovative fusion cuisine that reflected the city's international character. Food delivery applications connected residents with diverse culinary options, while farmers' markets continued to provide locally grown products that maintained connections to the surrounding countryside. The contrast between ancient market squares and modern food halls illustrated Luxembourg's ability to embrace change while honouring tradition. Artists and cultural organisations leveraged digital platforms to reach global audiences while maintaining strong roots in the local community. Musicians streamed performances online, expanding their reach far beyond Luxembourg's borders, while visual artists used social media and digital marketplaces to connect with collectors worldwide. These technological tools provided new revenue streams while enabling cultural exchange that enriched both Luxembourg's art scene and international understanding of its unique heritage. Transportation systems integrated smart technologies that optimized traffic flow and reduced environmental impact. Sensors monitored congestion and automatically adjusted signal timing, while electric vehicle charging stations appeared throughout the city to support the transition away from fossil fuels. Public transportation applications provided real-time information that helped residents and visitors plan their journeys more efficiently, reducing wait times and improving the overall user experience. The retail sector underwent dramatic transformation as online shopping changed consumer expectations and shopping patterns. Traditional stores developed omni-channel strategies that combined physical and digital experiences, while entirely new businesses emerged that existed primarily in virtual spaces. Shopping districts evolved to emphasize experience and service rather than simple product distribution, with retailers focusing on providing expertise and personal attention that online platforms could not replicate. Cybersecurity became a critical infrastructure concern as Luxembourg's digital systems attracted both legitimate businesses and malicious actors seeking to exploit vulnerabilities. Government agencies and private companies invested heavily in protecting networks that controlled everything from financial transactions to traffic management systems. The same vigilance that medieval guards had exercised while watching for approaching armies now extended to monitoring digital networks for signs of unauthorized intrusion. Work-life balance took on new dimensions as remote work options became more common and technology blurred the traditional boundaries between professional and personal time. Flexible schedules allowed residents to avoid peak commuting periods while maintaining productivity, though some struggled to disconnect from work when their offices existed primarily in digital spaces accessed through personal devices. Artificial intelligence began assisting with urban planning and resource management, analysing vast amounts of data to identify patterns and optimise city systems. Traffic flows, energy consumption, and demographic trends were processed by computer algorithms that could identify opportunities for improvement that human planners might miss. These digital tools provided insights that informed decisions about infrastructure investments and policy changes, though human judgment remained essential for interpreting results and implementing solutions. The circular economy gained momentum as Luxembourg sought to maximize resource efficiency and minimize waste generation. Recycling programs expanded beyond traditional materials to include electronic devices and other complex products that required specialized processing. Businesses developed new models based on reuse and refurbishment rather than disposal, creating employment opportunities while reducing environmental impact. Mental health services adapted to address challenges associated with modern, urban life, including information overload, social media addiction, and the isolation that sometimes accompanied digital connectivity. Counselling services were offered through both traditional face-to-face sessions and digital platforms that provided greater accessibility for those with mobility limitations or scheduling conflicts. Community programs encouraged outdoor activities and personal interactions that balanced the screen-based nature of much modern work and entertainment. Smart city initiatives integrated sensors and data analytics into infrastructure systems throughout Luxembourg, creating networks that could monitor and respond to changing conditions automatically. Street lighting adjusted its intensity based on pedestrian traffic and weather conditions, while parking systems guided drivers to available spaces and reduced time spent searching for parking. These innovations improved efficiency while reducing energy consumption and environmental impact. Luxembourg's role as a European capital evolved to address digital governance challenges and cross-border data flows that had not existed when the European Union was first established. The city hosted conferences and working groups that developed policies for digital sovereignty, data protection, and online rights. These discussions reflected Luxembourg's continued importance as a venue where different European perspectives could be reconciled through careful negotiation and compromise. Elderly residents benefited particularly from technological innovations that supported aging in place while maintaining social connections with family and friends. Video calling platforms kept families connected across distances, while medical monitoring devices provided peace of mind for both seniors and their relatives. Smart home systems automated routine tasks while alerting caregivers to potential problems, allowing older residents to maintain independence longer while ensuring their safety and well-being. Cultural preservation efforts embrace digital technologies to document and share Luxembourg's heritage with future generations who might otherwise lose connection with their history. Virtual museums preserved artifacts and documents in digital formats that would survive even if physical originals were lost or damaged, while oral history projects recorded the memories of long-time residents whose personal experiences provided insights that formal histories might miss. Renewable energy integration transformed Luxembourg's approach to power generation and consumption, with solar panels appearing on rooftops throughout the city and wind turbines installed in appropriate locations outside the historic centre. Energy storage systems helped balance supply and demand while reducing dependence on fossil fuel imports that had always made small countries vulnerable to external economic pressures. International collaboration evolved beyond traditional diplomatic relationships as digital communication platforms enabled real-time cooperation between Luxembourg and partner cities around the world. Sister city relationships expanded from ceremonial exchanges to include joint research projects, cultural programs, and economic development initiatives that benefited all participants while strengthening the international networks that had always been crucial to Luxembourg's prosperity. The Internet of Things connected everyday objects to digital networks, creating opportunities for improved efficiency and entirely new services that enhanced quality of life while reducing resource consumption. Smart meters monitored energy and water usage with precision that allowed both utilities and consumers to optimize their consumption patterns, while connected appliances adjusted their operation based on usage patterns and utility rates. Luxembourg's approach to technological innovation balanced advancement with social responsibility, ensuring that digital transformation created opportunities for all residents rather than exacerbating existing inequalities or creating new forms of exclusion. Digital literacy programs helped older residents and those with limited technological experience participate fully in the evolving economy and society, while accessibility standards ensured that new systems could be used by people with various disabilities and limitations. The financial sector continued adapting to digital currencies and new payment systems, while maintaining the stability and security that had attracted international clients for decades. Regulatory frameworks evolved to address emerging technologies while preserving the competitive advantages that made Luxembourg attractive to global financial institutions seeking reliable regulatory environments and sophisticated infrastructure. Urban agriculture emerged as both a response to food security concerns and a way to reconnect residents with food production processes that had become increasingly remote from daily experience. Rooftop gardens and vertical farms appeared throughout the city, while community gardens provided spaces where neighbours could work together on shared projects that strengthened social bonds while producing fresh food. Quantum computing research facilities positioned Luxembourg at the forefront of the next technological revolution, with international partnerships bringing together researchers from multiple countries to explore applications in cryptography, financial modelling, and scientific simulation. These investments reflected Luxembourg's commitment to remaining competitive in emerging technologies that could reshape global economic relationships. Digital art and virtual exhibitions expanded cultural opportunities beyond the constraints of physical spaces and traditional operating hours, allowing greater access to artistic experiences while complementing rather than replacing traditional cultural institutions. Online galleries showcased works by local and international artists, while virtual reality installations allowed viewers to experience art in entirely new ways that enhanced rather than diminished appreciation for physical artworks. The concept of lifelong learning became increasingly important as technological change accelerated the pace at which skills and knowledge became obsolete. Educational institutions developed programs that allowed working adults to update their abilities and acquire new competencies, while online platforms provided access to specialized training that might not be available locally through traditional educational channels. Luxembourg's multilingual heritage proved particularly valuable in the global digital economy, where the ability to communicate across cultural and linguistic boundaries provided significant competitive advantages for both individuals and businesses. Translation services and international communication remained important economic sectors, while multilingual content creation became a specialty that attracted clients from around the world seeking to reach diverse audiences. Urban mobility evolved beyond traditional transportation categories as new forms of movement emerged to address the changing needs of residents and visitors. Electric scooters and bicycles provided last-mile connectivity that reduced dependence on private vehicles, while autonomous vehicle testing began on designated routes that could eventually provide more efficient public transportation. The integration of these new options required careful planning to ensure they complemented rather than competed with existing transportation systems that had served the city well for decades. As Luxembourg City moved deeper into the 21st century, the same fundamental qualities that had enabled a medieval fortress to survive and thrive for over 1,000 years continued to guide its evolution through an era of unprecedented technological change. Adaptability, pragmatism, and openness to innovation remained central to the city's character, while respect for tradition and commitment to community provided stability amid rapid transformation that might otherwise have been overwhelming. The ancient walls that had protected generations of residents now sheltered a modern metropolis that faced an uncertain but promising future, with confidence built on centuries of successful adaptation to changing circumstances. The underground passages that had once hidden defenders from medieval armies now housed fiber optic cables that carried digital information at the speed of light, connecting Luxembourg to global networks that would have seemed magical to earlier generations. The emergence of virtual reality and augmented reality technologies began transforming how residents and visitors experienced Luxembourg's rich history. Digital overlays allowed people to see the fortress as it had appeared in different centuries, while interactive displays brought historical events to life in the very locations where they had occurred. These innovations enhanced appreciation for the city's heritage while making it accessible to new generations who had grown up with digital technology. Biotechnology companies began establishing research facilities in Luxembourg, attracted by the same political stability and regulatory sophistication that had drawn financial institutions for decades. These firms focused on developing treatments for age-related diseases and genetic disorders, conducting research that could benefit millions of people while creating high-value employment opportunities for Luxembourg residents with advanced scientific training. The concept of digital citizenship evolved as Luxembourg developed policies that addressed the rights and responsibilities of people living increasingly connected lives. Questions about data ownership, privacy protection, and algorithmic bias required careful consideration of how traditional legal principles applied to digital environments that transcended national boundaries and conventional regulatory frameworks. From a simple fortress perched on sandstone cliffs to a global financial powerhouse and space industry pioneer, Luxembourg City's 1,000-year journey reveals the extraordinary power of adaptability and resilience. The same pragmatic spirit that enabled Count Siegfried to claim his rocky promontory in 963 continues to guide this remarkable capital as it embraces artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and quantum computing while preserving the ancient walls and underground passages that tell its incredible story. Tonight, as you drift off to sleep, perhaps you'll dream of medieval merchants walking the same cobblestone streets where international bankers now conduct billion-dollar transactions, a testament to Luxembourg's timeless ability to transform challenge into opportunity.